Good morning, Broncos fans. We are live on YouTube and Twitch. We're going to bring in the Facebook pages right now. And as we do that, I just want to remind you of this special hat that I received that I'm going to auction off or have a drawing. So stay tuned for that. But good morning. This is Legends of Mile High. I'm Thomas Hall, where we talk about historical events and current events, blend those together, and hopefully provide you some information that you can have on our beloved Broncos. And we have had an incredible week this week. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Russell Wilson contract a little bit. I mean, I'm sure everybody has heard by now that this is a major event. So we're going to chat about that. We're also going to talk about some other events. I mean, the Broncos set their roster, signed a new player. We've got a lot to talk about. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to Mile High Huddle YouTube, like this show, talk about it with your friends and family, get more people in here so we can continue to bring the history to people that may not know all of it. And in that, we are going to talk about, as always, the Mile High legend. We've got a great one about Rich Carless today, so stay tuned. We're going to jump into the chat. We got a lot of people jumping in. Diamond Rattler, boom, let's ride. That is the great saying that's going on. Russell Wilson's brought that in. Everybody's using it now. Thank you for jumping in. This is awesome. We have an incredible season ahead of us. Dave Glassman comes in. Thank you for that. Appreciate coming in from YouTube with the orange and blue. Thank you very much. Richie Baez, Broncos country, let's ride. Absolutely. Thank you for coming in, Richie. I have not seen you on here before, so I appreciate if you're the first time viewer. Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. Albert Knoppers, thank you. Good morning, Thomas. Well, good morning to you, Albert. I think we have a good show today. We're going to recap a lot of stuff, and it's going to be a fun show. Stuart Sanchez, what's good? Well, I think what's good is Russell Wilson being locked up for 7 years, basically. I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere. We all knew that at some point we were going to see the Broncos sign Russell Wilson to a long-term contract at some point. Most of us, I don't think anybody had any idea that it was going to happen yesterday. That was kind of a surprise. I mean, it's a huge contract, $245 million for 5 years, kicking in after 2 years, really, for the most part. The contract length is anyway. Locking up Russell Wilson until he's 40 years old. Now, I know 40 seems like an old quarterback, but let's face it, this isn't the 1990s anymore when quarterbacks like Troy Aikman were done at 34. We've seen John Elway play to 38, and he took a beating. He didn't even have an ACL in one of his knees, for crying out loud, and he was still playing at 38 years old and playing well. His last season, other than being injured, he got hurt and missed 4 games. He was on pace to have one of his best statistical seasons, and he could still throw the ball. Peyton Manning obviously was playing okay at 38, 39. That neck injury really kind of did him in, but Russell Wilson hasn't had any major injuries like that. So, I still think 40 is a doable in today's age. And obviously you got Tom Brady, who is an anomaly. I don't know if anybody else is going to be able to play to 45, maybe. I don't know if they want to. That's the thing. With John Elway, he just didn't want to do the grind anymore. He could still play. He just had enough. And there's Drew Brees playing till 40. This is possible. So I'm not really worried about the length of the contract. And the cost is actually less than I thought it was going to be. And many other people thought it was going to be. Most people thought when he got his new contract, it was going to reset the market. And it really didn't. I mean, it's right in line with the other highly paid quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks. So it was deserving, but still not, I don't know, I guess I would say not selfish. He came out and said that today or yesterday that he didn't want to make it so cumbersome that the Broncos could bring in other players. So that's huge. I mean, yeah, it's a big contract, but you pay him for what he's worth, but not so much that it's incredibly cumbersome for cap reasons and things like that. But again, as everyone knows, the salary cap can be manipulated. You can move money can be moved around. It's just a number that gets manipulated all the time. And frankly, with the way the NFL has increased in value and the salary cap keeps going up, in 3 years, when that big portion really starts to kick in, it's going to be a lower paying contract compared to some of these other big quarterback contracts that we see come in. So I think it was a really good deal, shrewd move by George Payton and the new president Penner. I mean, it was quite a shock all around yesterday. I thought anyway. I think everybody else was a little bit shocked too. But I mean, we can dig into that contract. There's some big hits, big cap hits coming down the pike. 49 million really in 2025. That's a pretty big one. But the interesting thing is when he turns 30, after his 37, age 37, so his 2025 season, there's a potential out. So if something happened, say that he got hurt and he just wasn't the same person anymore, you could see the Broncos jumping out of that contract and getting out of the last 3 years. Now that's a $31 million cap hit, but there is some safety net in there. So, but you're going to see that this contract gets manipulated, changed down the road. It's the nature of the game, but you just traded away a huge, really quite a bit, first round draft choices, second round draft choices, some good young players, Andrew Luck. So, you're as a team, you've invested already heavily in getting Russell Wilson here. There's no need to wait to see if he is a good, you already assume he's a good player. So there's no need to wait to see if he plays well this year or anything like that. So, it was a pretty good deal all around. I think, finally Broncos country has an elite quarterback that we don't have to worry about until he's, 40 years old. So it is it's a great deal all around. I love it. Travis Schiffer coming in, barefoot boot. Yes, that is Rich Carlos. And thank you for saying that, because I'm going to remind everybody, stick around till the end. We've got the Mile High Legend, as we usually do on the show, to keep that history alive. I'll tell that story. So stick around, because it really is going to talk about why he kicked barefoot. So I think it's pretty interesting. And Rich Carlos really, he was in the Mile High City for a while, so it's going to be a fun one. Also, what we have today to talk about a little bit more, and throw your questions in here. The roster decisions. I mean, if you have any questions about Russell Wilson's contract, definitely throw them in. But I'll tell you, the roster decisions was a little bit of a shock to me in a couple points. So number one, the backup quarterback situation. I did not expect them to go with Rippon. And the reason why I say that is, I've said it on this show before, Johnson was handpicked for that role. And even though the preseason showed Rippon kind of outplayed him, I just thought that the Broncos were pretty much set. So I was completely wrong on that. And kudos to the Broncos coaching staff and to, the front office for saying Rippon's played better. He's commanded the offense a little bit better. Even if we really wanted Johnson to win that job, we went with the person who played better. So that was huge. And that was my biggest miss. All right, before we get going, I'm going to jump into the chat a little bit. We have Dom coming in. Good morning, Thomas Scott, Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. Absolutely, Denver Broncos for life. That's my motto, and I've been a fan since around the early 80s, 81, started watching them. I really appreciate you, Dom, coming in. That's a good motto to live by, Denver Broncos for life. And also thank you to Scott for being behind the scenes, taking care of this. I thought I might have to struggle trying to get the streams all connected this morning, but he's here doing it like always. So I appreciate that. So Travis Schiffer coming in. Why didn't they get Seth Williams on the practice squad? Well, the last I heard, they still have a couple slots left, unless something came in late last night and I didn't see it. I think that they want him back on the practice squad. I think Seth Williams is the one who's kind of waiting on that. He's trying to find out if he, wants to be on the practice squad for the Broncos. He might want to go somewhere else where he has more of a chance of playing. Because right now, the Broncos have a lot of young wide receivers. Unless somebody gets hurt, they're not going to call anyone up. They've got 6 wide receivers on the active roster, and one of them is both of them really are the last 2 are really specialists, that can play in special teams. Seth Williams did a little bit in preseason, and I thought that was going to give him the boost because he had a great preseason as far as catching the ball. But I think he's weighing his options. I think he wants to go somewhere where he has more of a chance to play. Right now, if he gets on the practice squad, I don't see them bringing them up very often unless there's injury. So his chance to really play is limited on the Broncos practice squad. I think they like him, and I think it was a tough decision to not have him on the active roster. They went with Virgil and Cleveland, and Cleveland's a good special teamer, and that was really why they kept him around. But the thing with the practice squad now, that with all the rules that they have, it's really almost like a farm system. Being able to call those players up, and Cleveland, Williams is looking to find a place where they have more of a chance to do that. He may come back, and we still have time to before they fill out that roster. I think there's 2, maybe 3 spots left. I think they had signed 13 practice squatters, maybe 14. So we shall see. But at this point, it's it's not looking good for Seth Williams out there if he hasn't been signed to another practice squad. So he may just come back. So that's a good question. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, Travis. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in. Good morning, Thomas. Mile High Huddle for life. Let's ride. Absolutely. This is. Thank you for coming in. Thanks, Gary, for being a loyal listener, a loyal fan of Mile High Huddle. And really, I have to give thanks to Mile High Huddle for giving me this opportunity, this venue to talk about the history of and current events the Broncos. So yeah, Mile High Huddle is really giving me an opportunity to do that, and I'm loving it, man. I love the show. I'm still, obviously working out some of the kinks, how we're going to do this show and everything else. So this is only my 17th episode, so I'm pretty happy with being able to talk to you all, and I hope this information that I'm bringing is helping your Broncos knowledge. Now, before we continue on, I'm going to talk about this hat here. Now, it's a Denver Broncos hat, camouflage, gray camouflage. It's a 940 New Era hat. It's sold out. I was in the after I went to practice last week, I went into the store and had that hat in my hand, and the guy's like, "Where'd you get that hat?" And apparently they've been sold out for a while. So we are going to give this hat away on this show. So next week, this is it's like, I don't know, I think it's about $40, something like that. We're going to give this hat away. Anybody that comes in with a super chat on next week's show or a Facebook stars will be entered into a drawing to win that hat. And I will send it out as soon as we make that drawing. So tune in. Next week is going to be fun. This is going to be the preview to the season. The Broncos start their season on the Monday following. So we'll have a lot of information about the upcoming season. And if you win this hat, you can wear it to a game or just wear it while you watch the Broncos. So make sure that you tune in next week, do those super chats, do those Facebook stars, and we will pick a winner. So again, thank you for joining. I appreciate that. So don't forget about that. So Dave Glassman has a strange personal question about breaking a collarbone. Have I ever broken a collarbone? No, I have not. I hope I don't ever break my collarbone. So no, I haven't. I don't know what's prompted that question, but I have. I have been lucky to only have a few serious injuries in my life. I've only broken bones in my foot, massive damage to my foot playing basketball, of all things, city league basketball. Tore ligaments, had surgery. It was quite a deal, and tore my MCL. But when I played football, the worst thing that ever happened to me was a sprained ankle. So I was lucky in that. And I actually did rugby as an older man, which was a big mistake. I tore a tendon in my leg and separated my shoulder, but no collarbone. So I don't know. I don't know why you would ask that, but I think they take a while to heal, and it's pretty darn painful, I'm sure. So thank you for that question. Scott Fry's coming in about the Darius Phillips signing, and I was going to talk about that this show because that was a big event, and it's surprising to me that I thought Asang Bassi had done enough to make the team, which he did. They had him on the team. But they released him to bring in Darius Phillips. I think it's a good signing, really. I mean, he seems to be experienced. I think, Bassi had really been coming on and then tore up his knee and was out, and he kind of stunted his growth. So I really think that they were specifically looking for a cornerback to get waived, cut, released, anything as soon as those were all happening to bring somebody in. I don't think they were happy with their cornerback room, at least the depth wise. I mean, at the top, you've got Patrick Surtain and Darby. You got Williams. That's a solid group. But with Ojemudia going down, and he wasn't even playing that well in the preseason, you've got a rookie in Mathis who is promising, but he is a rookie. They needed to find somebody to come in and kind of round out that depth. And that's what they did with Darius Phillips. So I appreciate that. That was a great comment. I think he's going to probably be your fourth cornerback. I think he's going to bump Mathis down the list because I thought with the current group that they had, they were going to have Mathis be that first cornerback off the bench, but now they have a little bit more experience in that, and I think that's a huge win. And speaking of roster decisions, they really did a good job this year, and kudos to Mike Purcell and Tomlinson for taking that hit for the team, getting cut, and then coming back because they wanted to keep a couple people, Ojemudia and Dulcich, on the roster so that they could bring them back during this year. And I think that was smart, and I think that was a great decision, and it was nice that those two players were able to do that for the team. But there were a couple surprises that I did not expect. I mean, I drew up obviously a couple depth charts trying to figure out who was going to stay and who was going to go. I nailed the safeties. I figured they were going to bring 5. I nailed the inside linebackers. I have talked about what I saw in practice and camp. They were using safeties to fill in the inside linebacker. Often they were dropping Baron Browning. They dropped Malik Reed, who got traded. They dropped Jonathan Kongbo into off ball. They were trying a lot of different things to see if they could fill in that inside linebacker depth with other players. And they also had Benito and Browning playing a lot of special teams. So that relieved some of that inside linebacker depth worry. So what I'm hoping is Griffith is back for week 1. He looked promising. Josie Jewell, of course, promising. Their depth is suspect right now. Only hope that there's not as many injuries or any injuries. Last year was brutal for the inside linebacker group. But, then you got the defensive line. Henningsen and Uzurke came on at that preseason, the last couple preseason games. They got better and better. That one was not a huge surprise. Cutting Mike Purcell was, but they brought him back, so it was a procedural move. I thought that was writing on the wall. And then the edge rushers, they had such a stable of edge rushers that it was, I didn't know how it was going to go. If they kept Reed around, they were going to lose somebody. Cooper, they really like Aaron Patrick. I don't think he did a great job, as the edge rusher, but he's a great special teams guy. So that was great. The biggest surprise came in the wide receiver group. I didn't expect Virgil to land that spot, but he did. He's fast. He's got a lot of potential. I actually thought, as we were talking about, I thought Seth Williams was going to sneak in that last spot, and then Kendall Hinton getting waived. That was a surprise as well. So I think that's where most of the surprises came in, other than the backup quarterback. I mean, the running backs were set. I mean, Mike Boone looked amazing playing in those preseason games. So it was awesome. So Dave, sorry about hearing that you broke your collarbone. That's I'm sorry about that. I wish you speedy recovery, and thank you for being. This is the first time watching, so thank you for joining the show. I hope you enjoy it. Again, we blend history and current events. I mean, right now we have a lot of current events going on, so I'm not going to talk a lot about old players other than Rich Carlos at the end. So yeah, feel better. To join in next week, maybe you can win the hat, and that'll help ease your pain. So we'll see. So I really hope that you heal up quickly. And we got a lot of chatter about how many have how many broken bones that we've had. I've been lucky, so just chalk it up to that. Yeah. So I think I'm going to talk a lot about preview, kind of the season preview next week and leading up into that first game. But I think across the board, the Broncos have a very solid roster. They made some good decisions. They've got some great players. There's a little bit of concern about depth, but the only time that you really have to be concerned is if you start losing significant amount of players. If you lose a player or two for a few games, I think there's plenty of depth to step up in those situations. But like last year, when 7 different inside linebackers started, that's when your depth really comes into play, and it's a concern. And those concerns for me are still the inside linebacker group. The depth is maybe a bit of a issue. As long as they stay healthy, I'm not going to worry about it. And then the cornerbacks, with the inexperience maybe a little bit, but other than that, I think we're pretty solid. I think tight end group, people are worried about that. Man, I think that's a solid group. Saubert really came on. You got Tomlinson, and Dulcich will be back in, hopefully 4 weeks. That's the new rules for your injured reserve. So you've got those 2 coming back. So all in all, it's a solid roster. I think they did a good job, even though they didn't go with the players I had hoped. I still think it's a solid roster. And let's face it, this team goes as Russell Wilson does. He's been very durable. I don't see, unless something happens this season, you never know. But I don't see the need for the backup quarterback unless they're mopping up huge wins already in the fourth quarter. So I think we got a good team to watch. And now that we have an elite quarterback to watch, this season is nothing but success coming our way, I think. So it's a good one. But yeah, so again, one last time, win this hat. Facebook stars or super chat, enter to the drawing. And so we don't have any more comments. I don't see anything. Oh, wait, we do have one from Scott. This is a good one. Was it a mistake not playing the starters for a couple sets of downs in the last preseason game? I don't think so. I mean, I think that the injury risk outweighs the preseason games. There was a couple starters that actually played that needed reps. But when it comes to the timing of the wide receivers, Russell Wilson has that dialed in. So if Russell Wilson wasn't going to be out there playing, there's no need to have those starters out there playing in the wide receiver group or the running backs for that matter. We shall see how it works out. First-time head coach. Maybe they did need a little bit. Maybe they'll be a little rusty coming in. The nice thing is they're going to Seattle, and I know every given Sunday, but Seattle does not look like a solid team. If the Broncos struggle a little bit on offense out of the gate, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much. I think they'll be able to handle Seattle pretty easily. So like Nathaniel Hackett said, you have to weigh the risk of playing your starters in the preseason. Games that really aren't meaningful. I mean, they're meaningful for players trying to make the team, but the starters, not that meaningful. The one concern I do have is how the offensive line will work together. Now, that's something that, especially in the zone blocking scheme with the timing and everything that goes on with that, that's the one concern I have. Will the offensive line come out and look like they've played together and gelled together all off season right away? So watch for that in the first game. The running game takes a little while to get going. then maybe you can question why at least the offensive line didn't have a few reps to kind of get that timing down in real situations. That's my biggest concern. But the rest I don't have a concern about. I mean, these people have been playing for a long time. They're professionals. I don't have any concerns. It would have been fun to see. It would have been really fun to see Russell Wilson throwing to Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy in the preseason. So from a personal standpoint, I would have loved to see that. But man, just think what would have happened if Jeudy got hurt, or if Russell Wilson got banged up, or one of the other starters on offense, Javonte Williams got banged up. Man, it's the risk isn't worth it. Okay. I'm going to jump into one more chat. I'm a fan problem coming in. If this coaching staff struggles out of the gate with this new owners group, will they be on a short leash? That's an interesting question, because we don't really know what this ownership group is going to be like. But I will tell you this. When I first heard that it was someone from Walmart Group coming in, regardless of how much money they had, I was a little bit concerned. Only because if they decided to run a football team like Walmart, and I used to work, did some M&A and stuff back in the day with supermarkets and retail. And I knew kind of the inner workings of some of the stuff that Walmart did with their employees and whatnot. And it was really a concern, but I have no concerns anymore. They hired the right people. They've got smart minds, they've got smart football minds, and they have people that love the Broncos. I mean, Condoleezza Rice is a longtime Broncos fan, engaged to Upchurch for a while. I mean, she has that, bleeds that orange and blue. So I think they made the right decisions. So I don't think that it would be wrong for an ownership group to say, if you don't perform this year, you're out. I mean, you got to give Hackett time. But guess what? He has Russell Wilson. When a new coach, that's been the biggest key for a new coach coming in. Even a retread coach coming in that, kind of was had a few bad years, was the quarterback. I mean, you look back in history. So, I mean, John Fox came in, they had a good roster. They somehow went to the playoffs with with Tim Tebow, but then they got Peyton Manning. Belichick failed with the Browns, came in, found Tom Brady by luck. Pete Carroll got Russell Wilson. These and Mike Shanahan, for that matter, came back to the Broncos and had John Elway, Hall of Fame quarterback. So that eases a lot of pain. And you got to look at Green Bay, that, with LaFleur there, he had Aaron Rodgers. That's going to get wins. So that's going to give, unless the coaching staff completely bombs somehow and just doesn't put them in the right positions to win, which I don't think that's the case. With Russell Wilson at your quarterback, you're going to have wins. They're going to have plenty of leeway. So I don't think the new ownership is going to do that. So I think they've assembled a great ownership group. Very smart. One last question before I start to wrap up the show. Travis Schiffer coming in and Christopher Allen out for the season. Yes, he is out for the season. He went on injured reserve before they set the roster. And when you do that, you're out for the season. And I think it was a smart move. He wouldn't have gotten onto the field this year. Even if he had made the roster, he would have been a healthy scratch most of the time because they've got such a deep group. But yeah, he's out for the season. And I actually look forward to next year because I think he's going to be a solid contributor on that edge group. Because when I watched, camp and whatnot, he seemed like a player. He didn't get to play much, but he seemed like he was a good player, and it's just been injuries that have hampered him. So if he can get healthy, he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a steal. So thank you for that question. So again, I'm going to wrap up the show. Don't forget, next week, this hat will be in drawing. So tune in next week, and then I will announce it live the following week. So it's a nice hat, and I hope whoever wins it is cherishes it. It's a sweet looking hat. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the show with a Mile High legend. Rich Karlis may not be the greatest field goal kicker in Denver Broncos history, but he is a legend in Denver. We only have to look back to the 1986 AFC Championship game. the game that we all know that famously featured the drive. Now, Elway was obviously the star of that game. I mean, that made his career take off. People loved him after that. But we can't overlook the fact that Carlos kept the score close with 2 field goals. And then he sent the game to overtime with the field goal after the drive, and then kicked the game winner, 33-yarder in overtime. And he was perfect on the day, going 2 for 2 on extra points and 3 for 3 on field goals. And he's the last player to do it barefoot. Rain, snow, or sunshine, he trotted out with no shoe to kick field goals. Now, Carlos ranks 5th all-time in Broncos history for field goals and extra points in his 7 years kicking for the team. But his career in the Mile High City wasn't all sunshine and roses, really. Excuse me. He had his struggles with inconsistency. In Super Bowl 21, he tied the record for the longest field goal in a Super Bowl. And then shortly thereafter, tied the record for the shortest field goal missed in the Super Bowl. And this was a game that the Broncos should have had a blowout in the first half, but huge mistakes like that cost them dearly. And it was their undoing. And Carlos ended up losing the kicking job to rookie David Treadwell in 1989. And many would chalk up to a cost-cutting move. And did that decision affect the Broncos 2 years later? Would Carlos have missed 3 field goals in the 1991 AFC Championship game in which the Broncos lost 10-7 to the Bills? We'll never know, but based on his past performance, it's unlikely, and he probably would have sent the Broncos to their 4th Super Bowl in 6 seasons. Now, I know that I said earlier that Carlos was the last barefoot kicker, and that isn't entirely true. Jeff Wilkins decided to try it in 2002, but by week 8, he had the shoe back on, making Carlos really the last one to do it full time. So why did he kick shoeless? Carlos came to the University of Cincinnati as a punter. In his freshman year, the coaches decided to move him to place kicker. And he needed to get the feel for kicking the ball quickly, so he took off his shoe. And back then, that was the most effective method to learn where to hit the ball on your foot as a kicker. And that barefoot method stuck, and he never put the shoe back on to kick the ball again. Rain, snow, freezing cold, it didn't matter. I mean, imagine standing in the snow and cold in Mile High Stadium on Monday Night Football in 1984. That was Rich Carlos. I remember watching that game, standing in the snow with his bare foot. All because he needed to learn to kick field goals quickly. And that is your Mile High legend. Thank you for joining, and have a great day, Broncos fans.